Hi guys, this is the Real Eyes podcast. I'm your host Rudy,
And I'm Stella.
and in this podcast we discuss the ongoing conflict in Palestine. In today's discussion, we'll explore the intersection of LGBTQIA+ rights, propaganda, and the history of queer solidarity within the context of this long-standing conflict. Without further ado, let's dive into today's exploration. In discussions surrounding the Israel-Palestine conflict, the phenomenon of pinkwashing has emerged as a disputed issue. In Corinne Blackmer's Israel Studies from 2019, she defines pinkwashing as the practice of promoting a country's LGBTQIA+ rights in order to divert attention away from the more harmful and negative practices. In this context, the Israeli government aims to portray Israel as a progressive and tolerant nation while overshadowing its oppressive policies and human rights violations, particularly those against Palestinians. Propaganda plays a significant role in shaping public perceptions of the conflict. And yet, queer activists manage to look beyond and still find solidarity towards a society in which their own rights have not yet been delivered. Queer activists in communities around the world have long stood in solidarity with the Palestinian cause, recognizing the interconnectedness of struggles against oppression. While condemning the occupation and supporting Palestinian liberation, queer solidarity movements challenge pinkwashing narratives and highlight the broader human rights issues at stake in the Israel-Palestine conflict.
Joining us now is Mystika Glamoor, a prominent local drag queen based in Edinburgh and an activist hosting events in protest for Palestinian liberation right here in the city. We love and admire her. Here's Mystika.
Hi everyone, my name is Mystika Glamoor, aka Oscar Kirk Hansen, that's my birth name. I'm a Edinburgh-based drag queen and the owner of Cafe Queer, a sort of queer space.
Amazing. So we just wanted to come talk to you about the Israel-Palestine conflict, specifically because, we know you as sort of a queer icon in this city, and we know that you're also very politically active with this whole thing. So we have one question for you. What kind of shaped your perspective on the Israel-Palestinian conflict and motivated you to become an activist?
One of my first introductions to it was actually my history teacher in high school in Italy was very vocal about Palestine and about Israel and about the whole sort of situation, and kind of instilled in me a sense of why Israel was sort of defending itself, and more importantly, why that was nonsense, and why that was essentially, creating an ethno-state and a sort of theocracy, sort of justifying itself on a sort of religious basis, and how no one should have the right to do that, no matter what atrocities they go through, essentially. And from there, I sort of watched a lot of films from my Palestinian filmmakers, etc. When I was in film college after high school, I saw this film called Five Broken Cameras, which was absolutely incredible, by Guy Davidi, who's the director, who's an Israeli man, but is very sort of pro-Palestine, which we have to remember, there are a lot of people in Israel who are pro-Palestine.
Yeah.
And he gave a bunch of cameras to families living in Palestine to film their daily lives, and that was really just such an eye-opener to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And since you're so big in this whole queer community here, what do you think it is about the Palestinian cause that you think queer people find solidarity in?
I think the reason queer people have solidarity with Palestine is that we know that when one of us go down, we all go down, and that anything that they're doing to Palestinians or pro-Palestinian people is what they can do to us, let alone have been doing to us. So we recognize ourselves in that. And I think, there is nuance of that, maybe some people who are protesting for Palestinians, let alone some people in Palestine, maybe they don't have a tolerant view on queer people or a nuanced view or whatever. But the whole point is that if they haven't been given the spaces and the resources to develop as a nation, how can we expect them to now have some sort of philosophical point of view on queer people, trans people, whatever? So the thing is, if I then become intolerant of them, they might as well be intolerant of me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Solidarity doesn't have to be a two-way thing. I can stand in solidarity against you and your family getting bombed to pieces, even if you think that I'm, a bad, an abomination or whatever, your word for it is. I will still stand in solidarity with you when we're talking about something as extreme as bombing and murder and displacement.
Yeah. And then obviously, solidarity between so many political causes is so important.
Precisely.
Can you discuss any specific projects or initiatives that you're involved in or that you have been involved in in the past that aim to raise awareness towards Palestine?
Well, when this whole sort of situation started, I wanted to use whatever platform I could, whether it was drag performances or as well here at Cafe Queer, we run monthly exhibitions. So I reached out to a local sort of Palestinian solidarity arts kind of group called Sumud, who are brilliant and doing fantastic work. And they organised a little exhibition in our basement space with photography and sort of portraits from Gaza. And so doing whatever I could with my platform to spread the word. I'm not perfect, no one can be perfect, but I think we need more people doing things imperfectly, or to 50%, rather than 3 people doing it to 100%, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just in general, with all politics, with everything. So I do what I can.
Yeah, as we all do. One last question that we have for you. What action can be taken by the general public to improve queer solidarity in these regions?
To be honest, I have to be 100% honest here. I do not know.
Yeah.
I don't know how we go forward. I don't know how we change minds about queer solidarity, etc. in a country that's being blown to pieces, where they're just thinking about how to feed themselves and feed their children. I also think sometimes it's important for us to show that queer solidarity, but we also have to take a step back sometimes and go, okay, let's focus on what I was exactly saying, like their first priorities, which is just surviving and feeding their children. I think what's more important is what we can do to try and support the people in Gaza right now, whether that's doing fundraisers, just turning up to protests, sharing things online. I think it's important to not spiral too much into sharing images of dead bodies, etc., because that can, of course, it's important that we know that it's happening, but that can just lead to despair and depression as well. So rather focus on sharing resources, GoFundMes, local groups and what they're doing, events, things like that. Share that. And yes, I don't know how we fix everything in general, but let's just try something, do what we can, do something about it all.
Yeah, absolutely.
As we conclude today's episode, it's clear that the Israel-Palestine conflict is not just a geopolitical issue, but one deeply intertwined with questions of identity, human rights, and activism. I find our conversation was enriched by the perspectives of our special guest, Mystika Glamoor, whose lived experiences shed light on the LGBTQIA+ rights and Palestinian liberation. Thank you for joining us on this journey. Until next time, I'm Stella.
And I'm Rudy.
Stay woke.